Wanna skapitāpanuma Asepīsisa elegamua Emunagua Kitaskinana Wea hey hey oh Wea hey 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 Wea hey Wea hey hey Wea hey hey Kitaskinana Wea
So far for the caribou pen, we're going into our 5th year. When we came up with the idea to start the caribou pen, it came out of a necessity from a court case, but it also came out from a necessity from the people, because we knew that things had to be done to our standard. And when we developed the plan for the caribou, we had workshops, and we involved the municipality, we involved provincial, federal government, community members from all Treaty 8 nations. And from those workshops, what was plainly, you could see as plain as day, that action needed to happen. There was too much planning occurring in regards to caribou, too much planning as in studies documenting their numbers going down. So First Nations saw that right away, recognized, okay, enough planning, let's do something. So 3 priorities came out of the workshops, and those 3 priorities were developing a caribou maternal pen, managing the wolf population, and working on habitat restoration.
And I believe when I was flying there year 2011 or 12 with the helicopter working in the pipeline, we went straight towards Nibish River in the helicopter. We went right across the lake, and we flew out up that mountain. That's when we saw them just in a line like that. They were just, those caribou were walking at the ridge, just lots of them just following each other's. They looked beautiful. And I don't know where they were going. They were coming kind of east, but they followed the mountains. Maybe they were going to migrate. Maybe they were looking for somewhere to cross. I don't know. But before the Willson was done, they used to cross that field from the mountains, from Nibish River along way up there along those mountains. I can't name all the mountains, just that river. That's what I was told anyway by some of the people that were there. And there's some mountains over there. I believe it would be a lot of caribou over there, because we used a helicopter. We landed by the river, and then at that time when the dam was built, they lost their trail coming across the field to go south. So at that time when they finished the dam, my dad and them were working still. It was not finished yet, but they were halfway done at the dam. Those caribou, some of them, quite a few times, they would see a caribou floated to the river coming this way. They float, they drown, because they don't know if they go across the lake, it would probably take them an hour, 2 hours to maybe more to cross that river, because where's their trail? They lost it. They don't know where to go, because that's their migration area, where they travel. And how many kilometers wide is that Willson Lake? How wide it is for the caribou to cross that river and try to migrate down south.
I think it's pretty important, because they were disappearing, and it was pretty well in our culture with the Klinee-Za people, and also with the Saulteau and the Cree people, they used to go and hunt the caribou. They used to harvest them. And then when they started disappearing, people stopped doing that. And I think it's pretty important because the people that stopped hunting them said, we can't hunt them anymore because they're almost all gone. So now we're bringing them back. So yeah, it's pretty important.
Is it our way culturally and traditionally to ensure that the caribou survive?
Absolutely, it's pretty important. I mean, we're living with the most powerful law on earth. Our people always have lived with nature's law. And nature's law means you preserve and you save, for future generations, right? Even with hunting and trapping, it was all based on making sure that the species survives and continues. Our people never went in there and just killed everything and eliminated species of animals. They always made sure that traditionally the animals that were going to build it back up were left alive so they could thrive and increase.
So this is, we pick lichen bags. So each year we need at least 300 of these bags full of lichen. And it's not just any lichen, they're very specific on what they like. Here's a picture of the type of lichen we collect. And they do not eat the pine needles embedded inside. And there's about 3 different types that we come across in the field in our area. And they pick the species that starts with cladonia. And it's a Latin word for the lichen. So caribou eat lichen in the wild. They primarily eat it in the winter time. So it's really important we feed them their natural food when they're in the pen. So the elders actually helped us direct where to go pick. So when we were first tasked with the job, we looked at our land use data within our lands department at our nation. We started talking to elders, asking them where should we go pick caribou food. And they directed us to a specific area. And from there we did field trials where we'd go out before a picking day and start looking for lichen carpets, lichen fields. And then we organized children from the local school, which are band members, to do the picking, and also a few other community members. So whatever age wants to come and pick, they can. So in total, we pick about 600 of these. They have a feeding season when they get in. So when they're first captured in the pen, they eat a bunch of lichen and transition into pellets. So that transition time takes about 300 bags, and there's up to 10 to 12 cows in that period where they transition to pellets. And then once they're ready to release them again, we transition them back to lichen. And that's where it takes another about 300 bags. So it just depends. There's some variability in how many cows there are each year, but it's around that, and it takes us that many bags.
We went to court primarily to protect the treaty rights of the seasonal round, the harvesting of the seasonal round. But it turned into this process of trying to save the caribou. Once we got into it and started understanding the state of the caribou, we realized that if somebody didn't do something, that the caribou would disappear. Which still might be the case, but at least we're in the process of trying to reverse that. In talking with the elders, the caribou were here to help our communities. In times of need, we could always go and get a caribou to eat. We could harvest all the parts as medicinal purposes in the caribou. The hides, every piece of the caribou was used for something. The bones were used for fleshing tools. So they're a pretty vital piece of our culture that's disappearing on us. And that disappearing, a piece of our culture disappears, and we lose a little bit of who we are as the indigenous people of the area, and kind of as the caribou are on the endangered list, I think the indigenous people here in the Northeast are on the endangered list. you know, as trying to maintain our culture and understanding those ways of life are disappearing as we lose the elders. And because we haven't been able to harvest the caribou, we've lost all that knowledge that was there with the elders on the caribou. You know, so that's a piece of us. As the caribou disappears, a piece of us that disappears as well.
We basically had to say, okay, do we want to help this species or do we want to watch them die? So it was kind of a no-brainer. The community chose, let's help caribou. Let's do our best. Even what I believe that the reason caribou numbers have gone down is from industrial development, caribou habitat being eroded, fragmented, a lot of habitat loss. So it is a human problem that created the state we're in now for caribou. So as First Nations people, we are stewards of the land, we are caretakers of the land. We have somewhat of a responsibility to continue on the life of this species. Like I don't think any First Nations would say, no, I'd rather let that caribou die. You know, like I just think it's a moral that is within us as First Nations to support and help where we can. And this was something we could do. And so far it's been successful.
Well, I think they're coming back, and I think we're proving it by being really successful with our penning program. I think it's one of the very few, and I think it's the only one in North America that it's actually successful, and so we're pretty proud of that program. We are bringing them back, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger, bigger and better.